I realized when I looked at it, it was not a bear. And about the same time, I was looking at it, it made a scream. And what made it worse, it kind of echoed at the base of that mountain. So, I mean, it was scary.
Yeah,
And,
it carried through the valley and you heard it.
oh, yeah. Then it decided to chase after us.
Oh.
Here's me and my friend. We're running for about 2 miles to get back to the car. And when we get back to the car, Mike, it was already there, or its mate was there, a companion. I don't know what it was, but it was like 25 feet away from us. Right there at the tree line.
That's crazy.
And I may God strike me dead right now if I'm lying. It actually grabbed maybe a 4 or 5 inch little twig tree, like a fir, a pine. I don't know the difference of the trees. And it bent it over like nothing. And it screamed. Now, I'm getting into my car, and I'm getting the keys in it. My friend is just getting to opening up the car door. Okay, and he's just getting his leg in while I have it in drive forward. So I'm dragging him, till we get out of there. And whatever it was, threw a huge rock, put a big dent in the car on the passenger front fender. I saw something, I can't say it was a Bigfoot. It was not a bear. And unless it was a man that weighed about 500 pounds, it was super hairy. I don't know what it was.
Well, it must have had the ability to grasp things and to throw them if it threw something at the car windshield.
Well, it was the car fender. Car fender. Put a huge dent in it.
Somewhat human-like if it can grasp things, because we're one of the only species that can actually grasp in that way, that can pick things up, because we have an opposable thumb that's dexterous enough to do that. So, did it have the same sort of features that we have with a face and eyes and head and the same structure?
It had, put it this way, the body was huge. Now, I'm going to tell you something which nobody believes me on this, but this is what I noticed. People have asked me through the years when I brought this up to very few people, other than I brought it up on a radio a couple times, that when it was running, Mike, it ran between 2 legs and 4 legs. And I couldn't figure that out. And no, I didn't.
Yeah, switch back and forth, huh?
Yeah, it was switching back and forth, which really kind of was strange.
That's freaky, too, if you see something doing that. Oh, I would run a lot faster if I saw that.
Oh, I did, and what was really bad is I had a guest on my show, Ed Romans. Now, in Canada, he's like one of the top folk singers in Canada. And he had his agent get a hold of me. This is back about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. He ran into a Bigfoot where he lives in British Columbia. And he liked taking his dog out to the woods, going for a walk out in nature. And he said he ran into a creature about 1,000 yards away from him. It started chasing him. And one thing he noticed as it got closer, it was running between 2 legs and 4 legs. And he described virtually everything that I saw. He, was telling me about it. And it really shocked me, because I've had so many people on my show, say that Bigfoot give off orbs, they're friendly towards humans. But yet they've never really seen them. They recorded sounds of Bigfoot. They have had rocks thrown at them. But I don't know. I don't think you're going to run into a Bigfoot, if you're out looking for him. I wasn't even out looking for anything, and we ran into whatever it was. Right. I can honestly tell you the stench of it. When I was getting in the car and it was close by, it was so bad it was burning my lungs. That's how bad it smelled.
Yeah, that's what they say about bears too, is that you have to be nose aware. It's not just about seeing them, that you smell them beforehand, and that's probably a good warning for Sasquatch too, is just smell for them.
I can tell you it had a face, and I didn't really look at the face that long because I'm a coward and I ran. What I do remember, the face was extremely hairy, but it kind of reminds me of the old prehistoric man type of face. Mm-hmm. But the body was more, it was extremely hairy. I mean, it had long hair. Other than that, I don't know what it was. That's why I was
anything 500 pounds, I'm going to run from no matter what.
Oh,
that's that's not something I want to stand face to face with in any circumstances.
Now, again, I can't say if it was a Bigfoot. I don't know what it is. Maybe it may. I have some weird thoughts in my head about aliens. People that claim they get abducted. Sometimes I wonder if they implant in people's minds somehow things that they know that man would be scared of. I don't know.
You mean like some sort of hallucination? Like they give you some visual reality that's not there?
Yeah, maybe they or it's there and they're changing their appearance into your mind to scare you off. Maybe, I don't know. See, the reason why I say that, I had another guest on my show who was a game warden and wrote a book about owls. And, what was interesting, which I managed to get out of him during the show, is that one night he was in his bedroom and he lived away from other people's houses, so he didn't close the curtains. And he claims he saw like 3 or 4, gray aliens walking in his driveway. And all of a sudden, they're in his bedroom. And then, like the next couple of days after that, he started seeing owls. When he was going out doing his job, owls were everywhere around him. And I kind of thought that was kind of strange, that maybe, that, I don't know. Have you heard anything like that?
I've never actually seen an alien, an extraterrestrial, extraterrestrial, UFO. I've never seen anything. But there have been a couple of times. It's funny to hear you say that, because I hunt in some very remote places, and there were 2 different times that these big owls followed me for a couple miles, just silently. I mean, they whisper when they fly. They're almost like little silent drones in the air, but following me up this mountain from tree to tree. They would just follow behind me and watch. And I even stopped right underneath one, maybe 10 feet below it, and it just sat there looking at me, and it was one of the weirdest things ever. So I would hope maybe I can extrapolate, especially having never had an experience, to say that maybe there's something there, a connection of some sort, a robotic, futuristic owl creature, I guess. But no, that's really interesting. There's been, just this morning, somebody wrote me from Brazil telling me about an experience they had, very very similar to that, where they woke up and saw this humanoid, very human. They were very excited about this time travel model because they described it as a human, just with slightly bigger eyes and a bigger head. And talking to them in their minds, saying their names specifically, and then just right after that, a couple of days after that, seeing these orbs, these kind of spherical orbs following them around. So not owls per se, but kind of the same experience where they had an encounter and then almost like something's watching them afterwards.
Well, see, I was thinking that maybe if he did have these aliens come into his bedroom and whatever trance they put him in, maybe because, again, he's a game warden, or a ranger, I should say.
Oh, I see what you're saying, linking it back to the implanting ideas or changing the perception of it.
Yeah.
Where he sees them as owls now. Yeah, that's a really good point, that it wasn't owls that he was seeing, but they manipulated it. And if you can talk to people in their brains, you would expect that they understand brains well enough to be able to change the perception of things enough so that now he's just seeing owls instead of these things.
Yeah, instead of seeing aliens, that he saw owls. And, when I mentioned that to him, he never thought about that. And here he wrote a book about owls, his experience.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting point. I didn't think about that either. In fact, I feel bad I interrupted you to finish your sentence there, but it made perfect sense as soon as you started saying that makes a lot of sense.
Well, what got you interested in UFOs, Mike?
It was an early thing in my life. My dad saw one, and then I heard him talking about it, and he was never someone who talked about these things or made things up. So really piqued my interest, and I just started investigating it more and in more detail, and had an early kind of flash of awareness where I looked at the cover of this book called Communion by Whitley Strieber, which many of your listeners are probably familiar with. Many have probably read it, or at least know the old book cover I'm talking about. I think they might have changed it, though, because I looked it up not too long ago, and that quintessential alien form wasn't on the cover anymore. I don't know if they changed it or not, but I looked up and saw that as a small child, and just saw next to that a modern human form and this early human form, an early hominin form as I know them now, and wondered if there could be a connection, a phylogenetic connection or a cladistic connection, and started looking into that more and more and compiling evidence from numerous different fields and trying to present a case for what seems to be the most parsimonious explanation for the phenomenon.
And, it's really, unless somebody's had to encounter one form or another, it's so hard to explain to people that if you saw a UFO.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people, which I think is good and bad. I think it's good that I don't have biases where I'm trying to speak from what I saw and what happened to me. And I think, but at the same time, I have talked to people who have had those experiences, and many times, like I told you, they come in the form of email. I got one this morning. I got two today. I get a couple every day since I published the book, and it's great because I love hearing people's encounters and experiences, and honestly, there's so much consistency across them, and I think that's a testament to the reality of this phenomenon, and not just that it's consistent, but also that it seems to indicate that they are humans, that they are very human in their form and their behaviors and their ability to talk to us. And it's I think it's something that everybody should step back and listen to. And it's been pushed to the margin, it's been pushed to the fringe, and I think that's really unfortunate. And over the last few weeks, actually, it's been really interesting to watch how it's becoming somewhat normalized, and I think that's great because it's got to be validating for those people who have had that experience. And like I said, I'm jealous that I have not, but I do believe these people, and I do lend credence to their experiences. And I think if we all did, there would be a lot that we could learn from it. And I think it's important for scientists to listen, to understand what people are saying, and especially when this many people are saying it for this long, and especially when they have such consistency in the stories, the accounts, the reports that they tell.
Well, people are so naive, or do they think the government think that we're naive? Let's face it. We can't be the only human type of life out there. There's got to be other out there, humanoids or whatever, out there.
Why though? Why does there have to be humanoid life?
Something.
Why would they naturally be humanoid?
Well, that's what most people think, because that's how they rationale, things out.
That's what most people think, but there's not really a lot of evidence to suggest that anything that evolved on a separate planet with a different gravity, different distance from the sun, different chemistry, different atmosphere, there's really no reason to assume that they would ever evolve to be bipedal humanoid forms like us. It's not a given just because life evolves.
You said it so good. Who knows what they would look like or how they would act. What I get, Mike, is these people that call up and they I hate to say it. I got one of my listeners out there, James. I get these guests on occasionally. They say that aliens are here to serve man, that they give off orbs. They're only here to, make sure we don't blow ourselves up. But then I get the other guests on, like Calvin Parker, and I could name a whole bunch that had an experience, or they claim they had an experience that wasn't well, where they give off orbs. It wasn't friendly. And,